Well, hey, what's going on? Nick Kirby here. Welcome into another edition of Chatterbox Reds, probably sponsored by DSC Commodities. I'm going to talk a little bit about Luis Robert rumors. A new rumor popping up on Sunday, linking the Reds once again to Luis Robert. We'll talk all about that in a second. But before we get to that, Christmas just around the corner, just a couple days away. If you still looking for a gift, nothing better than Omaha Steaks. You can save big on gourmet gifts and holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com, and then on top of all their great deals going on right now, you can get an extra $35 off with the code Chatterbox at checkout. Terms to apply. See site for details. omahasteaks.com, promo code Chatterbox. Can't recommend Omaha Steaks anymore. All right, let's jump right into it. Luis Robert rumors surfacing once again. Bob Nightengale saying that the White Sox would like to move center fielder Luis Robert for pitching depth and are engaged in talks with the New York Mets and your Cincinnati Reds. So for Luis Robert, before we really talk about that, we got to give some background on this guy, because there's a lot of complexity to Luis Robert's contract and the whole situation and the player that he is. I'll try to do my best running through this here. All right, so Robert signed with the White Sox back in 2017 at 19 years old after he defected from Cuba. Robert was so impressive in the minor leagues with the White Sox that they gave him a 6-year, $50 million contract in January 2020 before he ever took a big league at bat. That also included team options for both 2026 and 2027, which could bring the value of that original contract to $88 million. More on that contract here in a second. Now, Robert, right off the rip, was fantastic. Finished second in the American League Rookie of the Year voting in 2020. Won a Gold Glove. He was incredible in 2021. Put up 3.4 F/WAR in only 68 games after missing a large portion of the year with a right hip flexor injury. 2022, good, but not as good. Still put up about 2 wins above replacement. 110 OPS plus in 98 games, but again, dealt with injuries. 2023 was his best season, and his most complete season. 4.9 F/WAR, 5.3 B/WAR, so about a 5-win player. 130 OPS plus. He hit 38 bombs, finished 12th in the AL MVP voting, and most importantly for Robert, he played in 145 games, something he's never sniffed any other season. And then it just hasn't gone good the last 2 years. 2024, 86 OPS plus in 100 games, dealing with more injuries. 2025, 85 OPS plus in 110 games, dealing with more injuries. So is this a culmination of just all these injuries catching up to him? Is it a situation where just had a couple bad years and he can bounce back? We'll talk more about it as we go along here. So next is the contract. This is a very interesting contract. So 2025 last season was the last year of the guaranteed portion of his contract. He made $15 million last year. Now Robert's into the club option years. He has separate club options for 2026 and 2027, each at $20 million each season, and each year has a $2 million buyout. The White Sox, as they had to, already exercised his option for 2026. So he signed for 2026 for $20 million. You have a club option in 2027 for $20 million. If you choose you don't want to do that, you have to pay him a $2 million buyout. The most interesting question is, why would the White Sox want to trade Robert now? The Reds were one of many teams last season interested in Robert. The White Sox held on to him, seemingly to get more trade value. Their asking price was reportedly absorbent last offseason. I don't remember any concrete Reds rumors at the deadline. I know that we mentioned we would like to consider him, but there was some rumors. White Sox, again, held on to him. So last season, of course, I mentioned they wanted a king's ransom, and the Reds clearly made the right decision not to give up a king's ransom for a guy that was a below-average hitter in 2025 and did not stay on the field all year. Nick Kroll clearly made the correct decision there. Famously, you might remember me arguing with Clay Snowden, who wanted to give away Alfredo Duno plus a whole bunch of other players for Luis Robert. I did not want to do that. But from the White Sox perspective, it's just surprising that they opted in to his contract in 2026 and then want to move him right away. Like, my thought process was if the White Sox were going to opt in, there's no guarantee. I mean, this guy's been a below average hitter for 2 years. It's $20 million. You think if they were going to opt in, they would opt in and say, all right, we're going to try one more time. We're going to try to, Robert, can you please get off to a hot start? Can you please have a good first half? And we can move you at the deadline. We can flip you, because at that point, he's only going to cost $6-7 million for the rest of the year. And a team's going to know, hey, if he continues to finish off a full season, look great, we got him for another year for $20 million. That's great if he's the 4-5-1 player. But if not, we just have to pay $2 million more and we're off the hook with him. So he seems a lot more attractive at the trade deadline in 2026 than right now. But if you want to gamble now, I mean, this is the time to buy low from the opposite perspective. Seems like a good time to be the team like the Reds and a bad time to be a team like the White Sox. So we'll honestly see kind of how this all shakes out. The thing that makes this the most interesting was the White Sox surprisingly signed the Japanese slugger, and I apologize if I butcher the young man's name, as I've done many times on this program, Murakami. They signed him on Sunday. And so the questions are now, what are the White Sox doing? They have no chance in 2026. Is their mindset, we just don't want a fourth consecutive 100-loss season? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty bad. That could be some motivation to sign a guy like Murakami and try to get some pitching to at least be competitive. Are they feeling pressure from the MLBPA to be more competitive? I think that's another potential option here. The White Sox were dead last in payroll in 2025. This is a team that plays their home baseball games in the city of Chicago, dead last behind the Sacramento A's, behind the Tampa Bay Rays, behind the Pittsburgh Pirates, way behind the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, they almost had half of the Reds' payroll. A team in Chicago. That's crazy. So I don't know. Is the MLPA, are they pressuring them? Hey, like, this is not cool. We're going to file grievances. I don't know that whole process, but you could see how that could be an issue. Do they basically just want to buy a prospect? It's another part of this. They would pay part of Robert's 2026 salary in exchange for a prospect. If you're running an organization smart, you're trying to rebuild, that's what you want to do. Now, a lot of teams don't do that, especially the teams that don't spend a lot. Teams like the Dodgers, they'll do that. They'll trade you Gavin Lux for prospects. They'll buy prospects. If I was in charge of the White Sox, I'd be pushing, hey, let's spend a little bit more money, buy some prospects, and we can actually speed this thing along and have a better team and a better overall organization when we get to that point. So we'll see. But figuring out what the White Sox mindset is, which is no easy task to do, is a very important aspect of trying to determine, well, what do the White Sox want for Luis Robert if they are to trade him this offseason? So there's a couple ideas here that I have. Obviously, this is they're looking for pitching, so we're just going to only focus on pitching. The first would be Brady Singer for Luis Robert. Singer in his last year of arbitration. He'll be a free agent at the end of 2026. There'd be about an $8 million difference depending on how much Singer gets in arbitration. You could theoretically trade Brady Singer for Luis Robert. The Reds would have to pay an extra $8 million. They get a hitter that certainly would help their team, and we'll talk more about how much he would help. And they give away Singer, and basically it'd be kind of like salary dumping Singer would be kind of how I'd be looking at it. I would look at it almost like you'd be salary dumping Singer and getting back Robert. I don't like this at all. I just don't think that, because that's basically what you're doing. You're dumping Singer and you're spending $8 million on Robert. I'd rather just go spend $8 million on Austin Hayes or Miguel Andujar, I think, is kind of where I'd be at with that. And again, I've talked many times on this program about how I think Singer's undervalued because He's a guy that can actually pitch through a full season. And the Reds have a lot of really, really talented starting pitchers, but they don't have proven ones other than Singer. I just think it's a recipe for disaster. It's something that talk about things that could derail a season. Everyone talks about if you don't get a bat, it could derail a season. Well, if you have a bunch of injuries and you trade away your rock, that could make your season get derailed. A couple other ideas I like a lot better. Second one, this was actually from our Discord. Shout out to, I think it was Fair in the Discord brought this up. How about Brandon Williamson for Luis Robert? The White Sox eat half of Robert's salary. I can get on board with that. Brandon Williamson, obviously, we saw some flashes of this guy being great. He was a former top 100 prospect. He's had a rocky career, but in terms of a guy that's a pitcher that you would expect for the White Sox. Certainly you would expect him to pitch on their big league roster in 2026. Has upside. Yeah, he still has, I think, 4 years of control. He did lose a whole year because he was on the big league roster when he needed Tommy John surgery. Yeah, I mean, I think this would make sense from the White Sox perspective. And I think could certainly be on board with that. The other one, and this is the one I think the White Sox would probably want more, if I was guessing. Chase Petty for Robert. I mean, this is kind of trading two players with a lot of baggage and upside, like kind of. Obviously, Chase Petty was a top 100 prospect when we did this a year ago this time. Less than a year ago this time. 9 months ago this time. This will make a lot of sense. I mean, you would have 6 years of control for Chase Petty, who did pitch in the big leagues. I put pitched in air quotes because he didn't pitch very well. But you theoretically could expect that he would pitch. You put him in the White Sox. I mean, there'd be a lot less pressure than in Cincinnati, right? Like when he came into Cincinnati, like he was pitching for a team that had playoff aspirations. He could just kind of get his feet wet, go through his growing pains, kind of be almost like kind of a Homer Bailey. Remember Homer Bailey? You know, how when he came up, there wasn't really a whole lot of pressure. And by the time the Reds were competitive, he had gone through a lot of those growing pains. And there's a lot of Chase Petty, Homer Bailey. I could do a whole episode on kind of their paths. And I don't love giving up Chase Petty for nothing. Chase Petty would be interesting to me. For me to give up Chase Petty for Luis Robert, and again, the White Sox would have to eat at least probably about half the salary. The Reds, from the Reds organization perspective, I would need them to feel that there's not much they can do with Chase Petty. They just kind of are like, we don't think that we can fix him. We think there's a very low probability of us being able to fix him and make him anywhere close to that top 100 talent. If they still believe that they can, this is not something a small market team can do, is just give away talented pitching prospects for short-term gains. You just can't do that. But if they feel like, hey, we're kind of at the end of the road here, we don't think we could do much, we'll give him away. Maybe another team will fix him, but we weren't going to fix him anyways, so what does it matter? I think I could get on board with that. I think I could. So it's kind of where I'm at. Why would Luis Robert help the Reds? Well, I got some good, I got some bad with him. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. The good is several things. He was much better in the second half last year. He got off to a miserable start again, but he had a 126 WRC plus in the second half, was only 66 in the first half. He was a pretty unlucky hitter, too. On top of that, he was the 13th unluckiest hitter in baseball. Should have been closer to league average if you use a stat like expected weighted on base average. Of course, Will Benson would have been one of the best hitters in baseball by expected weighted on base average. So you have two outfielders, maybe if you get Robert and Benson, that should be a lot better, or you hope that they would be a lot better. Still a really good defender. He was +7 outs above average in center field in 2025. Obviously, I think guaranteed rate field, whatever the hell they call it in Chicago. It's a pretty big outfield. Great American Ballpark would be a lot smaller. 90th percentile in sprint speed. I mean, you could put him in center field, and you're going to get some value there, and you could move TJ Friedl to left. You could also move TJ Friedl in another deal, maybe not. Either way, I mean, you put TJ Friedl in left field, Robert in center field, Benson in right field. No, not Benson in right field. Marte's in right field. But you get my point. I mean, you could have Benson as your fourth outfielder in that. You could have some pretty good outfield defense there. And this is maybe the one thing that I like the most about Robert. He's hit lefties really well throughout his career. And last year was really good. I mean, for a guy that wasn't a great hitter, he had an 842 OPS against lefties in 2025. Only 601 against right-handed pitchers. But that's not really fluky. Careers actually higher, 872 career OPS against left-handed pitching. So this is the thing, like, you're obviously be buying Robert for the upside that he can play every day and be a maybe not 5-win player. Maybe that ship has long sailed, but the guy's still really young. I think he's only 29. He's either was his last season was 29 or this season is his age 29 season. He's still incredibly young. But worst case scenario, he's a great platoon player. I mean, elite defense and matches against lefties. Something the Reds need with Austin Hayes gone, with Miguel Andujar gone. Kind of all those issues the Reds had hitting lefties. They were kind of fixed at the end of the year last year, but that was Hayes and Andujar. Well, they're gone. And, this guy could help fix some of that. So the bad, it's pretty obvious. His health, and he's been a below average hitter for 2 straight years. Pretty straightforward. You'd be buying the upside. So I guess my conclusion on this is if you can get the White Sox to eat half, you're trading maybe one prospect, maybe Petty or Brendan Williamson. I think I can get on board with it. I think I can. That's about the same amount of dollars if they eat half as you'd be probably paying Austin Hayes. And I would much rather get a guy that has significant upside than Hayes. And I liked Austin Hayes. Thought Austin Hayes was a really great signing last year at $5 million. But Robert, I think, probably hits lefties close to as well as Hayes would, and clearly has significantly more upside than Hayes. So that's, I think, kind of where I'm at. If you're watching on YouTube, leave with me a comment. Let me know what you think. I think this is probably a very polarizing. There's going to be a lot of people say, yeah, do it. A lot of people say, this guy's been terrible for 2 years. What are you talking about? So I really do. I really see both sides. And I certainly do not want to be giving up much. I don't want the Reds to be paying the full $20 million. I mean, I guess if they decide to increase their payroll and want to spend $20 million, go for it. But if they're having to salary dump Singer to get him, basically, yeah, I don't think that works. Some other news across baseball: the Cardinals traded Wilson Contreras to the Red Sox. Full fire sale in St. Louis underway. We'll see. That'll be interesting. It certainly looks that way. Sonny Gray's already gone. Wilson Contreras. You have to think at some point Nolan Arenado is going to get out of there. I know he has that big no trade, but at some point is Nolan Arenado going to say, why am I sticking around here? Yeah. Again, I think that Chaim Bloom is certainly something I'm very concerned about long term. So I think he's going to turn the Cardinals into a much smarter, more efficient, going to try to be a Dodgers light. I'm very concerned about the Cardinals long term. 2026, though, this is exciting because this is maybe a team the Reds can beat up on. And teams you can beat up on can really help you get in the playoffs. If the Cardinals are a 90, 100-loss team, if they can continue to sell, there could be a lot of extra wins there for the Reds. And when you have other divisions that are more competitive, obviously the NL West still has the Rockies. but the top of those teams are so good, and at least the top are so good. You can make up for some of that if you have a team like the Cardinals to beat up on. So we'll continue to track that. The other piece of news, and I'm just going to briefly get into it, Main Street Sports Group. If you're unfamiliar with that is, how dare you? But the Main Street Sports Group is the parent company of FanDuel Sports Network. They could be going under. So the Reds TV deal, just the saga never ends with this. I'm going to try to do another episode before Christmas and kind of break this down and dissect this news a little bit more. But that's something that we'll continue to watch as well. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I yapped for 20 minutes. I don't usually yap by myself here. I usually bring on Craig or Mike, but it was really late. And, I want to get this Robert news out here on a Monday morning for you to hopefully have something to listen to, talk some Reds baseball. If I don't talk to you before Christmas, or this is the last time you hear, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope everyone stays safe. And seriously, I don't do this enough. I don't thank you for listening and watching our show. You make all this possible. You make a guy that just jumps on front of a computer to be able to do this full time. And I really do appreciate you. It does mean a lot. Thank you. Leave us a like, leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. Those kind of stuff really do help. So if you're able to do that, there's also a new hype feature on YouTube that you have to do on your phone. If you like the video, then it should swing over and hype it. I think that helps out too. Anything you do to help us, we would appreciate it. All right. Well, we will talk again soon. As always, go Reds.